And then there's, of course, the shots of them walking, which are just magnificent, to the gunfight at the OK Corral. Did they go there scared? Well, they're not showing it. They walk in with courage in their black long coats. It's a great shot. I really never get tired of seeing it. Doc Holliday's got the shotgun. Even Wyatt still wants to avoid a fight. He says, put Doc on the howitzer, gives him the shotgun so that they won't be less apt to try something. Outstanding scene. So they're walking in. Now, earlier they have an argument. Virgil says, and he kind of makes this point, it's just a misdemeanor. I mean, Wyatt Earp says it's just a misdemeanor. We don't need to go down there. And Virgil, they've taken their guns in the town. You're not supposed to, but Virgil knows their trouble, so he wants to get the guns off of them. And they go down there to take the guns. Wyatt Earp says, we don't need to do this. But Virgil understands a misdemeanor is a misdemeanor, and if you don't enforce that, they'll just get worse and worse, and we might as well deal with it now. So it's kind of a neat scene at the gunfight at the OK Corral. On one point, just a terrific scene is where it looks like Doc Holliday's out of bullets, and the guy says, I got you now. And Doc Holliday says, you're a daisy if you do. So he's calm and collected, and all these guys are really calm and collected, and they face death calm and collected, thinking. They have the ability to think. So they're facing it with courage, facing death with courage. So courage is another manly trait. All of these men had it. Ike Clanton scurries away. If you think it's important to build better, stronger men, we'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to this channel right now. But the Earps and Doc Holliday have a lot of courage here. You've got the other examples of men which are not role models. Jason Priestley plays some kind of lawman, but he's just working with the bad guys or letting them do whatever they want. Behan the same way. So you've got the juxtapositions of characters here. Strong men and the weak men. And the weak men, what happens? This is an important point. But weak lawmen like Priestley and Behan let the criminals and bad guys and the cowboys run wild, and they try to profit from it. And I don't know if Priestley does, but Behan does. He's able to operate and make money on it. So if you have weak lawmen who don't enforce the laws, you're going to have bad guys running wild. So if you have weak city councils and mayors just letting criminals run wild and they know it, society will just continue to have problems, issues, and break down and more crime. And it will increase, right? Crime will increase in that environment because they know there's no what? Accountability, no penalty, no enforcement. Now later in the story, there's another confrontation between the Earps and Johnny Ringo. And later the master to master. Johnny Ringo's second confrontation with Doc, and Ringo comes up to Wyatt and Virgil Earp, and Ringo comes up to Wyatt and Virgil Earp, and he says, I want your souls, and I want it now. Now, and I want your blood. Wyatt's not armed, and he says, we don't want any trouble. Wyatt's still trying to keep out of the trouble. Although they've had the gunfight at the OK Corral, so he should know that it's coming. So Doc gets up on the porch, though. He's ready. He knows that they're going to have to handle this at some point. He's wise. And he knows at some point Johnny's going to have to be handled to protect his friend Wyatt, because he knows they're going to keep coming, I believe. Wyatt says, we don't want any trouble. And Johnny Ringo says, well, you got trouble. Wyatt and Virgil walk away. Doc gets up. He's having his, I guess, being shaved. He gets up on the porch and he stands there in a neat red vest. Good costumes, by the way. And this is memorable. Ringo says, don't any of you have the guts to play for blood? And that's when Doc says the famous line, which we repeated forever after we watched this. We kept trading it back and forth. I'm your Huckleberry. Or more like, I'm your Huckleberry, right? So, but at that point, Curly Bill grabs Johnny Ringo and they get him out of there. And afterwards, Doc sits down and says, proceed to the Baba. Proceeds. So Doc again has no fear of death, of course, and a lot of courage. And he's refined, so he's interesting. He's very refined and cultured. Now, Sam Elliott, a fantastic actor, he's shot in the arm. So we see how he handles pain and how he handles adversity in the scene where they brought him back after he's been shot And he's going to lose his arm, and they say that, and his wife's crying. And watch how he handles it. He says, "Don't worry, Allie. I've still got one arm to hold you with." So that's Sam Elliott, who plays Virgil Morgan, handling it, right? He's concerned about his wife, not himself, as he's not going to be able to use his arm anymore. And again, that's kind of Virgil. He was worried about the townspeople and the children. Now he's worried about his wife. Now, at this point, Wyatt still wants to get out, but they make a mistake. They shoot his other brother, Morganer, played by Bill Paxton. Another great performance. Now Wyatt's all in. But he does use his mind. He acts like it's over. This man can bring violence. And violence is the only thing the cowboys understand. And Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp can both bring violence. He will now speak their language and do its shift. They respect only violence. He's going to give them violence. And there was a line at the beginning at the wedding where a priest repeated something. Johnny Ringo interpreted it. And it said this, and here's the turn of the story, Revelation 6:8. "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him." That's in the film. So now he's in what? War mode. Again, he's a thinker, so as he's riding out of town, he says it's over now, but it's not really over. He's a warrior and a leader. So he's going to war. So they start rounding up, killing the cowboys. They go on this, you see them riding these great horses, great scenes, and they're killing them. There's one excellent scene where Holiday and a guy goes in and they bust in on some of the cowboys, and one guy says, "Nobody moves." I think it's Turkey Creek Johnson. "Nobody move." And Doc Holliday, in the classic Holiday, says, "Nonsense, by all means move." So, and then we get finishing, we're close. And later on, the cowboys have them in a crossfire. And the cowboys, Curly Bill and all his cowboys, have cover and concealment. They're in a bunch of trees where pretty much the Earps and the people with them don't have much of either. And they get them in a crossfire. What saves the day? Courage, risk, rage, boldness, what you want to call it, but it's courage, risk, and boldness. And rage. He's not going to let it happen anymore. He's done with this. Wyatt Earp is done. So he charges out by himself with his gun. And then Curly Bill wants it to be, "Let me get him." So Curly Bill comes out and you get leader to leader, the leader to leader match. So Wyatt gets Curly. And then, of course, the cowboys are shocked and amazed that Curly Bill's gone down and they're disorganized. So courage can sometimes and risk turn the tide in a battle. And it does this one. They're able to overcome them. And once the leader's taken out, they start making mistakes. So after that scene, a guy says, "If they were my brothers," one guy says, "I would want to take revenge too," to Doc Holliday. Doc Holliday says, "Make no mistake. It's not revenge he's after. It's a reckoning." And of course, there's that reckoning in the Revelations in the Bible. Now, Turkey Creek Johnson, played by Buck Taylor, says, "Doc, you ought to be in bed. What the hell are you doing up here anyway?" Doc Holliday says, "Wyatt Earp is my friend." So you get the whole film for Doc Holliday right there, gentlemen. He's there for his friend. And we talk a lot about friendship here. Wouldn't you like to have a friend like Doc Holliday or like Wyatt Earp? They're there for each other. And you need friends in life. So this is one of the great points in why I love this film, because you really are watching a great friendship. In this society of transactional relationships where people don't show, where you've got the book Bowling Alone and all these other books that have come out, where men don't get together anymore, Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday have maintained friendship of the highest kind, friendship of virtue in the Aristotle sense. And that stands out today. Anyway, going back to the scene, Johnson says, "Hell, I got lots of friends." And Doc Holliday says, "I don't." And there you have it. Again, Doc Holliday is doing all this for his friend, Wyatt Earp, under tremendous odds, knowing he could die at any moment for his friend Wyatt Earp. Now, towards the end, Doc and Wyatt are talking again. They have this great friendship. Wyatt's asking him questions about Johnny Ringo. Doc says Ringo has a great big empty hole in the middle of him. He can't steal enough or be bad enough. And Wyatt Earp's trying to understand the enemy, which Sun Tzu said to do, right? He says, what does he need? Revenge. For what? Being born. Then Wyatt Earp has taken a challenge. Johnny Ringo has challenged Wyatt Earp and said, let's get it over. Let's just you and me fight. So Wyatt Earp says, tell him I'll be there. And this is the scene right before Wyatt Earp goes out to face Doc Holliday. And he's talking to Doc Holliday, who's sick now and in bed, or Doc would go. And Wyatt Earp asks Doc Holliday a serious question. Now, you want your friends to tell you the truth when it's important, right? Doc Holliday's a good friend, so watch. He's going to tell him the truth. Wyatt Earp says, I can't beat him, can I? No. Honesty. Doc Holliday knows Wyatt Earp's not fast enough to take Johnny Ringo. Johnny Ringo's the master. Doc Holliday's the master. Russell nods. He knows he's probably going to die, but he goes anyway. He said he would go fight him, and he's going to go. Final showdown, movie ending. Leader versus master now. Wyatt Earp will face Johnny Ringo, the master, while Doc is sick and in bed. Now, Johnny Ringo's out in the woods waiting for Wyatt Earp, and he says, can't believe you showed up. Didn't think you'd show. But it's not. But the guy is walking with his head down, and it's actually Doc Holliday. Johnny Ringo's not pleased with that. You can tell he's a little more fearful when he looks up. He knows he's now facing master to master, not master to leader. And Doc Holliday again says that famous line, I'm your Huckleberry, right? So, and then he says, why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked all over your grave. Johnny Ringo says, the fight's not with you, Holliday. I beg to differ, sir. We started a game we never got to finish. Play for blood, remember? I was fooling. I wasn't. And this time it's legal, and he shows his badge, which Wyatt has given him. So you get to see these two masters face off now. And, well, you know what happens. Wyatt comes up now, finally, to Doc. And he thought Wyatt was too sick. And Wyatt says, I wasn't as sick as I made out. So he wanted to go for his friend and fill in. Now that's a friendship, right? He was ready to die for Wyatt Earp right there. He didn't know who was going to win. He was willing to take the risk. He knew his friend couldn't beat him. So he went for his friend. Then it goes off, and they have these great riding scenes where they take out the rest of the cowboys and they triumph. And they have a great line. He says, Wyatt Earp says to Doc, let's finish it. And he says, indeed, sir. So it's the last charge of Wyatt Earp and his immortal, as Doc Holliday says. Now the ending's good. Doc Holliday's in bed dying. Wyatt's playing cards with him. He's been visiting him. And this is a great friend, too. Here's another example of great friendship. Excellent friendship. What are his friend's last words? About himself or about his pain? No, it's all about Wyatt. He wants Wyatt to get on with life. And he's giving advice to Wyatt as he's dying. He's much more worried about his friend than himself. Much more worried about his friend than his pain. And that's what you want in a friend, right? Someone who wants the best for you, right? Someone who wants you to get your goals. That's what you should look for in a friend. And Doc wants that for Wyatt, and he shows it here and tells it. Wyatt asks him how he's feeling. How you feeling today, Doc? I'm dying. How are you? And he tells Wyatt there's no normal life, just life. Now get on with it. Wyatt says, I don't know how. He says, sure you do. Say goodbye to me. Go grab that spirited actress and make her yours now. Take that beauty and run and don't look back. Live every second. Live, Wyatt. Live for me. If you were my friend ever and had any feelings for me, leave me now, please. He gets up and does what he says. He leaves. Before he leaves, he gets up and says, thanks for always being there, Doc. And he's given him a book. which after Wyatt Earp leaves, and he does go to get the girl. But he's given Doc Holliday a book. Doc Holliday looks at it and he reads it. It says, My Friend Doc Holliday by Wyatt Earp. That's friendship. If you can have a friend like Doc Holliday or Wyatt Earp, you're way ahead in life, gentlemen. Forging better, stronger men for better lives. Thank you. If you think it's important to build better, stronger men for society, we would truly appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button right now and help us build better, stronger men.